We have seen a recent trend of startups from India moving to the US in the Silicon Valley. Is this some kind of a reverse, again, kind of drained from India?
Yeah, this is a recent phenomenon, Lalit, that's happened in the past 3-4 years when there are a lot of enterprise software as a service, SaaS companies that were started in India, again, using Indian talent, Indian founders, but their customers happen to be in the US, since US is the biggest IT market. So after they create the product, they have to move to the US to be close to the customers. So this has started a whole migration process of entrepreneurs moving to Silicon Valley. And I think the estimates that I've heard in the past 3-4 years are a few hundred of these founders and CEOs have moved. So this is a recent phenomenon. And so what we're doing at Indiaspora is trying to see if these people need mentorship. Can we mentor them? Can we advise them? Can we help them get funding? So this is something that the Indiaspora group is figuring out at this point, because a lot of our members here in the US are the leading VCs who have invested in these companies, and these CEOs have come here. So it's in everyone's best interests to really get this group to be successful. So this is a new phenomenon, and that's something we're very involved in.
So where this is headed towards, what's going to end up?
I think the reason that these companies are moving is that the Indian market itself is not sufficiently large for these companies to find enough big customers, right? The US market is in the trillions. The Indian internal software market is in the $10-20 billion range. So there's not enough business to go around. Therefore, this is the market, and that's the reason it's happening. But what we need is the Indian market now is growing. With the advent of cloud computing in India, a lot of Indian companies, the large companies are all adopting cloud technologies, buying software as a service, software, and so forth. So it is growing, and it's growing fast, but it's not big enough for companies to just stay in India.
Can you give us your sense about the startup ecosystem in India?
Yeah, so the past 3-4 years, a lot of Indians who are living in the US and other countries, Indian venture capitalists and others, invested heavily in India. And I think we talked about it many years ago, was when the Geo deal was done, when Mukesh Ambani got money from Facebook and other big companies outside of India. That was the seminal moment where investing in tech startups and tech companies in India started and grew. Over the past few years, it grew at a rapid rate to the creation of 100 unicorns plus in India. But that period is over. Those unicorns now are having challenging times with the recession, with these unicorns being funded at very high valuations. So the market in India is correcting right now with these unicorns, where some of them will disappear, some will merge, and others will have a challenging time getting to the next level where they can either have an exit or go public. So the investors in the US are monitoring the situation in India, and as a result, the flow of money into startups in India has slowed dramatically in the past 12 to 18 months.
So basically, it's tough for the startups in India to get the US VCs money.
To get money, and to get money at high valuations. They're getting money, but less amount of money at lower valuations. That's the situation right now.
Is it only because of the fear of recession, or is there something else as well?
I think there was high overvaluation of all tech companies during COVID, and post-COVID, the valuation was so high and people paid such high prices. These startups cannot give their return on investment to the investors at those high levels. So there has to be a correction in the valuation of these companies, which means investors will take losses. And therefore, the market right now is in a wait-and-see attitude.
How does the government policy has created a conducive atmosphere, do you think so, for the startups in India?
I think it's steadily improving. It's a work in progress. We had Minister Piyush Goyal visit us last year. We gave him a lot of candid feedback. He's taken that back. He's trying to make changes. So it's getting better and better, but it's not the same as a company being incorporated in the US and doing business in the US. There's still some vestiges of old rules and regulations that need to be changed in India. And so it's really, I would say, it's a work in progress, moving in the right direction.
What are the recommendations, changes you have requested?
There's still some issues with angel tax in India, issues dealing with incorporation and moving companies from India to the US requires a lot of work, and companies coming back from the US to India require a lot of work. All those rules and regulations still need to be improved and changed to facilitate easy movement of money and companies between India and the US.
Do you have any thoughts on the talent pool these startups reflect in India? What kind of it is?
I think it's improved dramatically. I started visiting India in 2010 to do work with NASSCOM to create a product conclave in India. We started with only a few hundred companies in 2010. Now there are thousands and thousands of companies in India. It's gratifying to see where India has come in a decade. But there's still a lot of room for improvement because this founder and the CEO could be good. The next level of management needs more maturity, and that's happening as we speak. It's happening in two ways. One, people locally are getting enough experience. And two, there have been some talent that's moved back from the US to India to work in these companies. So this combination has been very healthy, and we see a dramatic improvement now in the next level of management in India. So this bodes well for the future of startups in India.
What about the kind of startups that are popping up in India, the thoughts? Any one of them that has caught your attention, which could be the future?
I think this is the proverbial question, right? Will there be a Google or Facebook coming out of India? That question is still to be unanswered. There are good companies coming out of India, but will there be a Google equivalent? Not so sure at this point in time. I see a lot of deals in India. Some of them tend to be copycat deals. They look like a US company but working in India model. Some tend to be add-ons and functional improvements to software. But in terms of breakthrough technologies, we have not seen too many companies in India come out with that type of product or solution at this point.
So is that because we are not there yet, the ecosystem is not there, the talent pool kind of is not there?
I think it's a combination of the environment. People come to Silicon Valley. We're sitting here in San Francisco. People come here because they're the craziest of entrepreneurs. The venture investors here also invest in those crazy ideas. And the US market lets those companies kind of unfold and work out. For example, here in San Francisco, we have driverless cars running around the entire city, actually. So that kind of stuff doesn't happen everywhere, So the environment is, I think, the biggest reason for, disruption, for innovation. And that's not the style of how it operates in India. And so that is an inhibitor. I'm not suggesting India become like the US, but in its own way, I think it's improving, and you'll get its own kinds of innovation.
I was trying to take you to the other passion, in Diaspora.
Yeah. So we do deal with a lot of, investors as part of Indiaspora. We've gone and done events in India. In fact, we did our 10th anniversary global forum in Delhi, where we had tracks on entrepreneurship, tracks on investing. We're coming back to India in August because we have the G20 meet. India has been designated, or Indiaspora has been designated by the Indian government as a diaspora organization to do a meet in Delhi in August, where we'll be talking about entrepreneurship, climate change, and many other issues which involve technology. So we do a lot of cross-border pollination, if you will, of bringing people from here, bringing people from India to the US. So that is very healthy and robust.
When you started in Diaspora 10 years ago, you had a goal, you had a vision. 10 years later, where are you on that?
We are a little step. We've taken some baby steps to get to the goal. The goal really is there are 32 million diaspora living outside. We want to connect that 32 million. Maybe we've connected tens of thousands amongst the 32 million. The eventual goal is to connect all of them. The eventual goal is also to create a Davos type environment for the diaspora as well. So these will take a lot more time, and so we're still working at it. 10 years into it, it could take another 10 years, who knows, but we're still hard at work.
And you expanded to other countries as well out of US, India, now you're in Australia?
Right, we're in Australia, Singapore, UAE, Canada, and the UK. Those are the big chapters that we have. And by doing this G20 meet in India, it's creating this Davos kind of environment where hundreds of diaspora leaders are coming to India for this meet. And so we hope that'll build eventually into a global Davos where we could maybe host this anywhere in the world, and the global diaspora of Indian origin all comes together to be a force for good. So it's more about being good, giving back, helping each other, as opposed to doing business.
So you said 100 diaspora leaders are coming to
We expect 200 leaders to come to India in August. We hope that over time that grows into hundreds of leaders meeting globally. But yeah, we expect to have 200.
So are they going to discuss about issues related among themselves, the countries, what they're going to do?
Yes, we plan to meet with most of the Indian ministers in Delhi, hopefully even the Prime Minister himself. But we will be having interactive sessions on entrepreneurship, commerce, climate change, healthcare. We even have one fun topic, which is can India hold an Olympics before it turns 100? The whole mission of this G20 meet is to how the diaspora can help India as it grows to 100 years.
Yeah, that's very interesting and fascinating as well. Prime Minister has spoken about Amrit Kal, right?
Yes.
In that context, where can, in which way, Indiaspora or diaspora leadership can be helpful and play a very important role in reaching that goal of India at 100?
I think one is we can help Indian entrepreneurs. Second, we can bring things from the diaspora that can be of help. For example, the 20,000 Indian American academics. Can they help India in some way? Can they go on a sabbatical? Can they go for a one-year tour in India? Can they do video-based training and things like that? So I think we see same thing with doctors. Besides visiting India, can they do things on video-based training? So there are all kinds of things that we can do to help India. That's why we're talking about climate change, healthcare, entrepreneurship. These are all big topics that can help India grow to 100 to be a very robust country in the next 25 years.
So when India becomes 100 in 2047, what kind of India would like to have it?
I think it should be an India with a thriving middle class, with poverty being eliminated, with India being a global power. So there's so many aspirations India has. And the diaspora takes pride in not only being of Indian origin, but helping the mother country get to be a global power.
How the Indian Americans can play a more better role in improving this relationship?
Yeah, it's a good question, Lalit, because Indians diaspora last year remitted 100 billion to India. In the old days, it used to be money coming from Gulf workers being sent to their families. Now that mix is changing to where Western diaspora are sending money to India to invest in the stock market, to buy real estate and so forth. So that is a big engine for India itself. When you get 100, it's more than the FDI India gets every year. So the Indian diaspora's remittances to India plays a big role. And so that can increase if Indian rules and regulations are made even easier. So you can see that it's money is one component, but also mentorship and advice is a different component. So by using all these different levers we have, we think we can really help India. Just imagine if that 100 billion a year goes to 200 and 300 billion over time. That could be a huge amount of money being invested in India. So we can play a big role, and the Prime Minister recognizes that the diaspora can play this strategic role. And that is why he's coming out to the US now for the state visit. A big part of that state visit is also to interact with the diaspora, to get our help and to get input from us as to how we can help India in the long term.
You are one of the few Indian Americans who interact with the Prime Minister multiple times. When he interacts with the diaspora leaders, what is his message?
I think he's very open to ideas and suggestions. When diaspora leaders go to visit him in Delhi, he spends an hour, 2 hours really listening and taking action too. The PMO is very active in follow-up and things, so that it's not just a meeting where you agree and nothing happens. He's very good at follow-up. He's very good at inputs and follow-up, and that's what we look for as we give India advice and help, is that they're following through.